I mean, I'm not special. You're not special. We all had OCs growing up, right? I mean, some of my OCs, they be dating back to like middle school, back in 2016. Thing is, with me, I have always had a knack of redesigning and using old ideas for something new. There's no real reason, I just think it's fun. And I think it would be interesting to talk about it here, comparing the old designs and the new designs, just to see how drastic the changes are. But first, we gotta set the stage. In the year 18X, the Kadir, Chaos Incarnate, returned from his trip in Midas World, putting away many of his many treasures. Suddenly, he was ambushed by the Caesarian Order Incarnate. The two duked, leaving many of Kadir's collected relics to be destroyed in the process, except for one.
I'm a soul stealer.
So this guy is pretty interesting. Well, okay, in my opinion at least. Kermit actually started off as a offshoot of the Kadiran, who was an offshoot of Mysona at the time. They both essentially became their own character, with Kadiran going to Synergy and Kermit later following into Hood Rats. Now, Synergy was originally going to be a prequel to Hood Rats. In one of the chapters, Cindy mentions a plot point from Synergy. And Kadir even had a design plan, but for the life of me, I can't find that shit anywhere, so you're gonna have to take my word for it. And if not, well, fuck you. Now, in this canon, Kermit's been redone from the ground up to be the latest incarnation of the Kadiran, the guy mentioned in the prologue. Now, he's on a mission to restore balance to the world of Hood Rats and break free from its orderly chaos. Whether he knows it or not, knowing this guy, he probably doesn't know. He's like, what, 13? So, I mean, like, come on now. Look at him, bro. Now, technically, Kadir and Kermit were split into two. Like, for Hood Rats, I mean. Kadir's design was reused for Elmo, a game genie who aids Kermit on his many adventures. Truthfully, Kermit was changed to fit the better of the story, I wanted to tell at least. A coming-of-age story. A lot more easier and a lot more ground to cover versus trying to tell a story I had no business telling. Like, okay, you gotta realize, at the time, Synergy as a story was trying to be so many things at once. A sci-fi mob space odyssey using themes I didn't understand fully. And I was in high school trying to preach about adult life. Yeah, that was kind of scrapped, and it's why Kermit's the way he is now. It's a lot more easy to tell a coming-of-age story through that kid's point of view, in my opinion at least. That, and overall, I am still very much a super amateur artist. So I'd rather work with something familiar, still challenging, but familiar, so I can get a better grasp on what I want to be told to the viewer, rather than preaching on something that I fully don't know about yet. I mean, I'm 22, bro. Like, I just started being an adult. I got bills to pay, but I'm learning shit as it comes along. So now, how would they interact? I honestly don't think they're gonna get along that great. The whole gap in maturity and priorities thing would probably make them more annoyed at each other than anything. And given how Kermit has like a disgust towards like classical heroes, he'd probably think Kadir's corny, all things considered. I'm around here wearing a bright purple suit and a green cape, talking about you're gonna save Earth. Like, bro, who are you, bro? So I'd imagine he like poking jab at Kadir every now and again. And Kadir, I don't know, probably like chuck a boulder at him. Like, I don't think they're gonna get anything done though. Still, no. Y'all see that? Another character from Synergy being used for hood rats. America, clap for this nigga. Now, if anything, she was the main character of Synergy there. A chippy, adventure-loving girl from the 70s who wished she could soar with the stars she loved so dearly. Bro, that's it. I did not get that far. I had planned on her discovering that she has a shared power with Kadir, some sort of energy plasma-based thingy. But again, I didn't get too far into it, and looking at the script for it, I mean, like it was boring, bro. It was low-key like a snooze fest. But anyways, keeping in tune with her original outing, she was linked with her current co-star, Kermit. This time serving as his cosmological opposite, the Caesarean, the embodiment of order. Woo-hoo! She's made it her mission to keep Kermit stagnant and not discover any of his true purpose, none of that. So she concocted a persona of her own, Oscarita, to keep Kermit at bay while she keep the pieces of the Star Child hidden lock and key. But hey, you know what they say about locks? They don't always hold. I just bit my tongue saying that. Ow. That being said, in the Hood Rat series, she's no longer the awestruck wannabe hero. In fact, she ended up being a hero. But now she's jaded and pretty tired constantly. The whole keeping up two faces persona thing going on. Cindy the hero and Oscarita. Little fun fact, early on in this series, she was supposed to be the same character from Synergy. By that I mean the same canon, not like a same character but like redone, you know what I mean? She's gonna jump from one universe and hop into Hood Rats in hopes of like escaping her own fate. That wherever she goes, you know, calamity will follow. Ooh, ah. It's part of the original story of Hood Rats that's long since scrapped because it was too much for my first outing, in my opinion. It was a bit weird. In some of the chapters, you can still see her being called Cindy Brentwolf, which I have yet to scrub out because that is no longer the case. Now, despite being jaded, I think Skyward still has an ego on her. I say I think, I know, I wrote the character. So having someone essentially just meet write her accomplishments all day isn't the worst way to spend her time. As for Cindy, seeing the version of herself that isn't a total loser, surface level wise, would be nothing short of inspiring. You know, she's gotta know, what did this version do of herself to get to where she is now? How are you so much better than me, bro? Like, give me your secrets, you know? Like, like what are we doing? Okay, I promise you this is the last character from Synergy I'm using. In this video, I mean. Oh, man. No. Abby originally started off as a character named Sharky from my old friend Kai. In Synergy, they weren't really fleshed out. I'm gonna be so, like, honest here. Yeah, most of the cast wasn't really fleshed out, you know? Surface level understanding to them, but, like, they couldn't really hold a plot, and Sharky kind of just fit the mold, you know, strong, mean girl, you know, with a soft side. That's, I mean, it's whatever for like Twitter points, but that's, I don't know. For a long form story that I wanted Synergy to be, it wasn't that interesting. So Hood Rats made it different. Yeah. I honestly consider Hood as like a second pass for like most concepts from Synergy, looking back at it now. For her new story in Hood Rats, I've decided to change her to the bottom of the ocean for 45 days straight and beat her with hammers. And by that, I mean she's the bottom layer guardian. Now, she's been entrusted by Sky White to hold onto that layer's game genie and ensure it doesn't cross any path with Kermit. In fact, if Kermit were to cross path with her or the game genie, he's ought to be redirected towards Oscarita. You know, keep him in that little loop. Of course, Abby doesn't really care about all that. Like, don't get her wrong, she likes the power, but she's very one-track minded when it comes to her goals. If there's no direct immediate benefit for her, then she's probably not going to be interested. Hell, the only reason why she and Kermit end up scrapping in the first place in the comic is because she just so happened to be in his path, and she was like, oh shit, right, you're the guy. But of course, what is wrong with me today, you know? Like I mentioned before, she wasn't really that interesting in Synergy, at least in my opinion. So when I was starting up Hood Rats for the first few years, she didn't really cross my mind as one of the few characters to reuse. Like immediately, I mean. It wasn't until I was drafting together part 2, which I needed a character for a rival gang, in which I was like, yo, back to the lab again, yo. Like, she's just sitting right there. I couldn't really have her just be a carbon copy of her classic self either. So she was made into a mute that only speaks, or for the most part, speaks in sign language, because I thought that would be interesting to put in the comic. There's no really reason. Well, okay, well, there is a reason as to why she doesn't speak, but I can't really reveal that yet. No, but yeah, she speaks in sign language, and she's very mean and stupid, and I like writing her. Now, as to how she would get along with Sharky, I'd imagine there'd be like a little comedic like foil between the two. I think Abby would see someone in need of guidance or what have you, because through her eyes, she's seen like a younger version of herself that hasn't discovered just how awesome they are. So there'll be this sort of like misdirect this misdirect what's it called? This misdirect mentorship between the two. So Abby will be showing her around, showing her ropes, you know, how to be awesome like me. Meanwhile, Sharky's like, yeah, you know, as long as they're, you know, free food, you know, just nodding, you know, as the dialogue goes on. I mean, it's my most known OC. At least the human design, I mean. Well, the Sonic side counts too, but that's whatever. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the human, you, Miss Henderson. This character comes from my first draft for my EXE retake, which was called Needlemouse. A project between me and a few friends of mine. I mean, if you're on the channel, you probably know what it is, but I'm still gonna explain it regardless because, hey, I kinda fill out that runtime, you feel me? She was a human who was murdered and was too angry to die. Reasonably. So she drifted around using the game to pick off her killers one by one until she got what she wanted. And I'm gonna be so honest here, guys. I still like her design, just a little bit. You know, the only issue that I have with it overall, like the design itself, I mean, is that it didn't fit with the time period she was from. Nor did any of her lingo really support that. It was like a backdrop more than anything. You can tell season 1, hell, season 2 for the most part was pretty much just random bullshit go. Like, it was fun to work on it, but like, Jesus, man. People want that series back? Like, bro. Despite the whole finished series exploring her as a person, it didn't really explore all too much with her. Besides the tragedy, which, yeah, sucked, but like nothing else is really shown about Sarah besides the fact she was like snarky and a cunt, which is like, yeah, you know, that you can see a little bit in that interaction, but like, you know, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, okay, okay, like, no, but as it stands now, I like her a bit more in Hood Rats versus the original series, and I feel like I can reveal a lot more about her now since I know what her overall role in this giant OC project to be. I know exactly what I want from her and how much I can put her in the story, and vice versa. Vice versa? Probably wasn't the right term. I apologize. Now, in this version of the story, Luther, Lily, and Sarah, they were heroes from Earth, a parallel world of Wega, from the 1940s. Through shenanigans, they end up being trapped on Wega, and their bond grows even closer. And so too did their lust for action. Over time, they become a troublesome little trio across the Wega. It's little nomadic heroes crashing anywhere they can. They're like neighborhood bullies. Now, I think their reasoning for like being the way they are is funny because like people are heroes because they just can. But these guys are a little bit mean because they just can. Absolute power corrupts absolute, or whatever the fuck they be saying. In comparison to the main cast, the main 4 hood rats, these 3 are like the older neighborhood bullies. Despite them being in their 30s. Like, come on, Gramps, like, how do you do, fellow kids? What are we doing? So here comes Ernie, the self-appointed timeline manager for Wega, trying to get them out of Dodge, basically being like, yo, what is you doing, bro? Get out of here, bro. Like, come on, time's up. Little scuffle, problems arise, people get hurt, and Sarah, a naturally vain and arrogant person, sought to put the blame solely on Ernie and vowed to make his life a living hell henceforth. Because she can't take accountability, and she is a sore loser. Loser, 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 loser. Wow, wow, baby, 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 cry, cry, cry. Now, as to why she was changed, or as to why she's here, no, I'm kidding. I have an actual reason. Well, okay, well, it's not really a deep reason. None of the reasons are really deep, honestly, come to think of it. My EXE concept got rebooted, and there wasn't really a need to use the Sarah design anymore. Because it didn't really fit the direction of the videos I wanted to tell. Still, I always was intrigued about using Sarah for hood rats, or at least referencing her in hood rats to some type of way. Even back when the series was still active, I had the idea of like putting her like as a Wega on there. But now that I've given time to fully flesh out this concept, she's cool now. She's no longer just a simple recolor. Her entire outfit was changed to both reflect this superhero-line persona she puts on and her showboating nature. Hence the dress pants she got going on. She's mixing with Hades and Erebon Thawne, so she's full of herself and short-tempered. Her palette was changed to resemble this washed-out color photos from the 1940s, making her look distant and otherworldly from the naturally bright-colored kids that we see running around on Wega. Proportions are a bit more sharper and blockier to really emphasize this bulky hero frame, like, do you know? I bet you didn't know. Yeah, I'm talking to you, buddy. Now, how would the two meet? While I don't think Miss Henderson would be awestruck by a different version of her, I don't doubt she wouldn't be intrigued that yet again, across space and time, she's still burdened with paying for someone else's mistakes. I feel like that's a universal constant for like any Sarah out there. She's burdened to fucking pay for someone else's problems, even if she had a hand in causing them. Look at Sarah Prime here. Sarah Prime, the what word? I don't know. This feels a bit weird. I think she calls herself Sarah Prime. She's a bit egotistical like that. She probably thinks she's like the original Sarah out there. And that's that. That was me going over the designs for my OCs and why I changed them. I'm not really good at this whole talking about my OCs thing, so I do apologize if things weren't really properly explained or too brief. Yeah, no, that's it.
I'm a soul stealer. I'm a soul stealer.